I just want to say, I love this movie. I'm so excited to talk about this movie. I love the hell out of this movie, and I hope you did too. Welcome to the Fandom for All review of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, starring Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, David Dastmalchian, Daniela Melchior, Viola Davis, and Joel Kinnaman. Enjoy. Hey there guys, and welcome back to Fandom for All. My name is Jay, and today's video is something we've been looking forward to for a very long time. I finally get to give you my full, rounded thoughts about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which released this past Friday. Thursday night at 7 p.m. actually is when I saw it for the first time. And I'm gonna go ahead and be honest, I watched it first on HBO Max. I wasn't quite sure if the gore content would be too heavy for me and a friend, but it's not bad. It's a thrill ride, man. It's so good. So I'm gonna get to talk about this with you. This movie is deeply personal to me, for specific reasons that I'm getting ready to talk about in this introduction. But let me start this out by saying I've been reading comics for a very long time. As of this review, I'm 21, and I entered the scene of comic books at age 5, maybe even earlier. The comics and the characters of my youth weren't Spider-Man, and they weren't Iron Man. I predate 2008 when those characters became mainstream. My childhood heroes were Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman, the characters that had had successful movies released before me that promised tons of toys and books for the youngsters of my generation. And that fostered a very deep love of DC Comics and its very intricate properties that would last pretty much my entire life so far. At 13, I picked up this book right here. This book is Trial by Fire by John Ostrander. The art in this book by McDonnell and Lewis is fun, and it's just an explosion of color, and yet there's always a looming threat that one of your favorites might get his arm. Yes, in these comic books it isn't the head, it's the arm. It's soon evolved into the head, but you know, getting their arm blown off by Amanda Waller. And in that moment my love for the Suicide Squad began. However, I didn't really mesh with the New 52 version of the Suicide Squad and any newer stories. Rebirth I haven't really looked into yet, but to this day I remain adamant that this run is definitive Suicide Squad. And so when the Warner Brothers version of Suicide Squad released in 2016 to lackluster critic and audience reception, I was heartbroken. So much of what could have been, what never was, and what we may never see came from right here and right there, and stuff that I loved, you know. So, to my recollection, the most notable reference to Ostrander's work in Ayer's movie was the scene where Boomer manipulates Slipknot into betraying the team and getting his head blown off because Boomer wanted to know if Waller was telling the truth. That's lifted right out of this book right here, which is Nightshade Odyssey. For those of you who want to read source materials, most of you probably have, but there's always someone who might need to know what to pick up to know, you know? The release of that movie left me, and I think so many other people, bitter. The flash forward a few years, and James Gunn announces that he's going to be taking over the franchise and giving us his take on the Suicide Squad with a cast video and a logo release. Not even the cast video, it was the one image with all the cast and the logo. And the cast was stacked, but the best part was the logo, the font, the colors, the bullet holes. I mean, this movie was very obviously being lifted right out of these books. And I think in that moment, the biggest shit-eating grin came over my face. And I remember thinking, this is going to be so good. And I had no idea what ride I was really in for. So I've been following the production of this movie since it was announced, solely because I care about these characters. I care about this franchise. And I felt maybe finally we would get something real, you know. So the first thing we're going to discuss are the main characters and how they stood out amongst an ensemble of very unusual characters and deep-cut DC characters. Each and every character in this movie is fully realized, by the way, and not one of them feels completely ignored. You know, from Pete Davidson to Margot Robbie, every character has dimension, mannerisms, personalities, all to themselves. But right now, I'm going to list the standouts. I think the overall standout of this movie is Daniela Melchior as Cleo Katzo, the Ratcatcher 2. She's easily one of two emotional hearts of this movie. Her story about her father, who is played here by director, writer, comedian, actor Taika Waititi. And yes, he makes you cry. The original Ratcatcher is who he plays, and he dies of an overdose in a flashback very early on in the movie. And it's very harsh, you know, the love that she had for her father, and then to see him with the needle sticking out of his arm and everything, it's all there. It was just really, really harsh and depressing. But what really cements Ratcatcher as an important part of this team is her emotion and her friendships with the other squad members that create this theme of central connectivity for all of our leads. She starts by making friends with the biggest guy in the group, Nanaue, when he attempts to eat her on the first night like a big sandwich. She decides to win him over with trust and love, citing, "If I die taking a chance on love, it would have been a worthy death." She also has a heartwarming and emotional friendship with Robert Dubois, Bloodsport. The two connect over their polar opposite fathers, whereas Bloodsport's father was abusive and cold, Cleo's was loving and gentle, even with his addictions. I'm so glad that Cleo makes it out of Corto Maltese, and I look forward to seeing her popping up in a hopeful sequel and other properties. Christopher Smith, the Peacemaker, is a really hard to love character, but it's a level of character work that I don't think I've ever seen from John Cena. There are times when I laughed and times when his kills would make me cringe, but for the most time, I absolutely hated him, and it worked. The commentary of Peacemaker representing America and all of the disgusting things that this country has done in the name of peace is a needed sentiment in today's world. Cena also makes one hell of a villain here. For example, his villain role in Bumblebee is nowhere near the level of detest and hatred he put in my heart by the end of the Suicide Squad. I have never in my experience as a comic and film fan so despised a character, yet walked away so excited for their solo venture. So bravo to Gunn's writing and Cena's character work. Nanaue King Shark, aka the big, lovable CGI character, is all that and a bag of nom-noms. He's funny, he's chunky, and man, he is cute as fuck. You just can't help but love him. The absolute legend that is Sylvester Stallone plays Nanaue here, and it's to this minute perfection. He doesn't say a lot, you know, he's very quiet, but when King Shark opens that big mouth, it's either to nom-nom on some soldiers or to land a joke perfectly. Like most of us, Nanaue loves to eat, and the fact that he was always ready for his next snacky snack was never not entertaining, even if that snacky snack is a freedom fighter. I felt the development of his character being seen from the lens of loneliness really hit home with me, and I think it would have hit home with many other audience members. When he finds his new friends in a group of ragtag criminals, he fits right in. It astounds me how James Gunn can take a big CGI character like Groot or King Shark, who barely say a word, and completely nail the development of the character. I look forward to hopefully seeing Nanaue pop up in future DC films, fingers crossed for Aquaman 2. This movie is easily Margot Robbie's best performance as Harley Quinn to date. I am an outspoken fan of Cathy Yan's Birds of Prey, and Margot is also the best part of the 2016 Suicide Squad. As I told a friend yesterday, the scene where she kills the presidente of this country, Silvio Luna, and is monologuing about red flags and her abusive relationship with the Joker. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because in both Squad 16 and Birds of Prey, we lose sight of the fact that she's really not so mentally sound. So many times in this movie, I think I looked at myself and I said, fuck, that's right, you're insane. And it was such a relief to be able to say that. This Harley feels broken, hurt, intelligent, and nuts, which is everything you need. It's the perfect Harley formula. The torture scene is also very poetic to me because as the Enforcer and Joaquin Cosio's Suarez are electrocuting her, you have this moment where you thinking you can hurt this woman is an insult to the Joker. It's almost as if Margot's Harley has become so extremely desensitized to physical pain. I feel 2016's Squad really helped Harley, or really let Harley's legacy down in terms of showing off her abilities and her insanity. But here Margot sells the role and proves that once again, just like Ryan Reynolds and Wade Wilson, Margot Robbie was born to play Harley Quinn. No stranger to the DC Comics brand, however, is David Dastmalchian of Gotham, The Flash, The Dark Knight, and the upcoming Batman The Long Halloween animated movie. Here he plays Abner Krill, the Polka Dot Man. And scene after scene, you fall in love with his psycho mannerisms and the things he says. It's very understated and very funny. Abner in the DC Comics doesn't really have the most developed backstory, but the interdimensional virus he is victim to in this movie is a wonderful explanation for where these dots actually come from. And what makes his backstory extremely tragic is that the person who inflicted this deadly disease on him is his own mother, a Star Labs employee who is viciously obsessed with turning her children into superheroes. And that's what Abner becomes. Very often in franchise film does a lead character's story end and begin in the same movie and come out fully in one film. But Gunn, and the way that he comes full circle with, she tried to make us superheroes at the start of his development and the end being, I'm a superhero, is so good. I was very devastated to see Abner get squashed by Starro, but was elated that it didn't end with yet another character dead without any development. Another standout for me in this movie is Robert Dubois, Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba. He's a heavy hitter here. He's the leader of the team. I would argue he's the main character. And his scene where he is visited by his daughter Tyla immediately dispels any concern that Dubois would just be a Floyd Lawton ripoff. Whereas Floyd cares for his daughter and would be extremely disappointed if she was caught stealing, Dubois has a very loud fuck you match with his and is only disappointed that she got caught. Dubois also has a past in the military in which he was a brother-in-arms to Rick Flag in Korak, which is a fictional Middle Eastern country that is the location of a Jotunheim in the Ostrander Run. This small detail harkens back to another character that we all suspected Elba could have been playing, and that's Benjamin Turner, the Bronze Tiger, who was also a war friend of Flag's and was courted by Waller to lead the squad but fell second in command to Rick. I loved how, for the majority of the first two acts, Dubois is not even remotely likable as a protagonist. I think another Easter egg, I'm going to side rail really here, is when he's arguing with his daughter about what she stole, and she says a style watch. He says star latch, which, you know, that's what the villain of the movie is. It's a star that latches onto your... It's a great line, great Easter egg for what's to come. But in the end, Dubois is made a leader, as Waller promised she would make him. And while I find it slightly upsetting that he bargained with vital information and ended up not releasing it to the public, I understand that this was so Argus could continue into sequels and spin-offs. I look forward to hopefully seeing Idris in future spin-offs, films, and shows. I want to interject here with an honorable mention before we reach our final standout character, because like Robbie and Harley, this is Viola Davis's best performance as Amanda Waller. My second favorite scene in this movie has to do with Amanda, in which she cusses out Task Force X and threatens to blow them up as they walk towards the Starro after being instructed to retreat. This scene solidifies Amanda Waller for me as the Wall, a nickname not unfamiliar to her character in the comics. Brutal, unrelenting, and cold as ice, Waller is easily the best human villain in the DCEU. My final standout for this movie is someone I'm not sure any of us saw coming, and that's Joel Kinnaman as Colonel Rick Flag. Holy shit. Hats off to him. In the 2016 film, Flag is your regular uptight military douchebag with zero character development, despite having not one, but two perfect opportunities for a change of character. His side story with June Moon falls completely flat. And then when Waller is revealed as having planned the entire mission, he stands by as she assassinates a room full of FBI and Argus agents. Rick just lets her do it. Reading the Ostrander's stories provided me with one thing: a love of Rick Flag. He's a very unimportant character in the grand scheme of DC. He's a side character, but I love him. I'm not always big on the military guy, but this is the military guy in a goofy yellow t-shirt. How can you not love him? Reading the like I said, reading these stories made me love him. And then 2016 comes around and the movie releases and he's just every other military guy in every other comic book movie. He's Christopher Maloney in Man of Steel, you know, that type thing. But here you fall in love with him and you laugh at him. It was just so refreshing to see Kinnaman dive into a new take on a character and hit every nail on the head. I was beyond impressed, but likewise devastated to see the shard of porcelain pierce his heart. But what made me so happy with this character and how he was written is that he died in direct opposition to Amanda Waller and being the hero that he was. What Squad 16 missed about Flag's character is that he doesn't always agree with Waller, and he makes it very known instead of sitting on the sidelines while she does horrible things. Then seeing him avenged by Dubois was just pleasing, even though Dubois didn't even know what Smith had done. Flag represents those of us unwilling to be a puppet to anyone, and Peacemaker represents being loyal to an affiliation, almost being an alt extremist, and not being affiliated and not being respectful of what's right. But Flag stands for morality and what is right. And I truly believe that Rick Flag is the emotional beating heart of this movie. Am I biased because they finally adapted his goofy costume into live action? Maybe a little. But come on, not many people can pull off a yellow t-shirt and a shoulder holster. So again, props to Joel, outstanding work, and I stand with you during this time of darkness. The antagonists of this movie. This is my favorite section. I label the villains of this movie as the antagonists, solely because someone being a villain does not equate them being an antagonist, and being a hero does not mean you're a protagonist. When your film's protagonists are a group of villains, it's harder to pinpoint who is the most evil. But here, the antagonists shine. They are developed, they are rounded, and it is a bright, bright shine. We have Sylvia Luna, who is an antagonist by nature. He seems a romantic, bright, and kind individual but reveals he is willing to slaughter families, including children, to achieve his goals. Then, Mayor General Suarez, an antagonist by circumstance, is an elderly, hardened general who plans to rule brutally, but is assimilated before he gets the chance. However, he speaks some of the most heartbreaking dialogue in this movie in the form of Starro lamenting at their demise. Gaius Greaves, the Thinker, is at first a comedic antagonist who is an antagonist by occupation. However, it is soon revealed that he realized in being evil, and having this position allowed him to not only physically torture the hosts of Starro, but to sexually abuse them as well, via its hosts. And this is what makes Starro a tragic antagonist, because it is simply an animal captured by a selfish government and experimented on and tortured for research. It destroys Greaves and Corto Maltese in an act of instinctual vengeance. But when the squad finally defeats it, its final thoughts were expressed through the mouth of the dying General Suarez, who says, "I was happy, floating, looking at the stars." A tragic end to an antagonist who had no choice but to revolt. But at the end of the day, the true villain here is the American government and Amanda Waller. Shocker, right? Just kidding. Waller is willing to do whatever it takes to destroy the evidence that the government had any hand in Project Starfish, and the American government tortured and captured a living thing for socioeconomic and political gain. Quick sidebar, I just want to talk about some deep cut references littered all throughout this movie. We get a Flash villain by the name of Double Down, who has evil playing cards seared into his skin. Kaleidoscope, a Superboy villain created by two fans, who I believe only appears in one comic issue. And Calendar Man, a Bat villain who is played in live action by James Gunn, the mocap actor for Weasel. John Economos, who is the warden of Belle Reve Penitentiary, appears in a supporting role to Amanda Waller. He's played by Steve Agee, who was also the on-set body double for King Shark. Amanda Waller's cousin, Flo Crawley, appears here as the aide who knocks her out with the golf club, but what may be my favorite deep cut reference, due to its circumstances, is that the pilot of the Osprey helicopter the team rides on goes by the name of Briscoe. Briscoe is the sleeveless jacket-wearing mechanic pilot to the squad in Trial by Fire and other Ostrander stories, and he is never mentioned by name in the movie, but those little circumstances I referred to are that you can catch his name in the subtitles and in the credits. Another fun cameo is in the nightclub where Flagg, Smith, and Dubois are arrested, is Pom Clementine. She plays a dancer, and we know this is the actress that portrays Mantis in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But one last thing that I really loved. You know, I'm a makeup person and a costume person, and I thought it was hilarious that Harley's makeup artists in the limo look like they may actually be her on-set artists. They don't fully seem to belong in the shot. It's really funny, even if it's unintentional. I want to talk about the plot with you guys for a minute, because I want to take this moment to say that the plot is simple. It is goofy, but it is incredibly effective. It delivers so much more than what you would expect as a fan. Gunn is a talented writer, a stellar director, and it shows so prominently in most of his projects. Another thing Gunn knows how to do well is aliens. And here, the villain is not just an alien, but a giant, goofy, pink and purple starfish, which is directly up Gunn's colorful, twisted alley. Gunn's protagonists, and I think more so here than in Guardians, are, to put it plainly, dicks. He makes it very clear that they all kind of fucking suck as people, and with a team like the Suicide Squad, that's a feeling you absolutely need to cement dead on. And James does it well. I especially love how Gunn writes his soundtrack into his script for his movies. You'll hear them playing stereo as a commentary on a given scene or foreshadowing, and then when dialogue or action begins, they become cemented in the universe through radios, prison intercoms, etc. Something I do find incredibly twisted about the initial squad and their mission is that they were really sent there to die. Waller more than likely set up some form of communication between Richard Hertz and Corto Maltese operatives to make him think that they would be accepting of his offer to sell the squad out, and then told the operatives to inform the militia to obliterate every member because she needed a distraction. Waller even sends Harley, Boomer, and Flag with this squad, making me wonder if it's because they all have shit on her from 2016 Suicide Squad. That being said, I believe this film is not really a sequel or a reboot. It's more in the vein of Joker, where it stands alone and has the freedom to do so. I love this movie. If you can't tell, I love every damn frame of this movie. My favorite scene in this movie is very simple and very understated. And that is when the squad emerges from the rain outside of Jotunheim, and there's this very dynamic shot of the full lineup slowly walking into view. And it's your usual come together moment for any comic book movie. But what makes this my favorite scene is that the music here is quiet and light. It's Hey by the Pixies. It's not a heavy action score that you would expect for this inevitable moment from every team-up movie. And the use of song is perfect for the squad and the lighting and the cinematography and everything here. It just works, and it's a great, great scene. The action in this movie begins 5 minutes in and starts at level 100, and it pretty much stays there the whole time. If Gunn knows how to do one thing, it's spectacle. And this whole movie is one giant spectacle. And yet, while being at level 100 consistently, Gunn manages to include deep emotion and heart into his movie. I cannot wait to watch this again and again and again for the spectacle alone. Let's talk about something I believe a lot of people were on the fence on, and maybe I can put some thoughts to rest: the gore. Let me begin this section with this. Do not take your littles to see this one. This is a brutal, hard R, non-stop gore fest, and simply, I fucking loved it. Faces are shot off completely. Limbs fly, bodies slam so hard into walls they liquefy. The Suicide Squad embodies its promise to fans: don't get too attached. But if you love The Boys and Deadpool and Robert Kirkman, see this one. It's like all three wrapped up in a bow of Scott Pilgrim versus the world. I want to talk about the costumes really quick, because if you know me personally, you know that I'm a cosplayer and a costume designer for theater and more. I always look forward to how costumes will be translated from comics to live action, and with Marvel, I usually have zero complaints. But with DC, it's very hit or miss. Like, I totally dislike Ledger's Joker makeup and hair, but I love Phoenix's costume because of how it's muted to fit the 1980s, but it's still purple, orange, and green shades, which are his colors from the comics, only toned down. But here, aside from Bloodsport and the Thinker, the costumes are pulled straight off the page. We finally see Harley in her red and black bomber look, fit for a Tarantino-esque opener like this movie has. Polka Dot Man's costume is an amazing adaptation of his look from the comics. Peacemaker literally looks like he leapt right off the cover of a Charlton comic. And while I mentioned Bloodsport and Thinker for not having fully comic-based looks, Bloodsport's updated costume is gorgeous. I'm going to throw some images up here while I talk. The helmet's half-exposed skull harkens back to the bandana that he would once wear in his head in Superman comics, and the all-white look with the tank top and the khakis is reminiscent of the Alex Trent version of Bloodsport. And when he wears this, when he wears it with the tank top and pants, it really is a cool reference. While Thinker keeps his nodes and wires on his head, he is not seen in a prison jumpsuit, a goofy purple suit, anything here. Instead, he's wearing an old black blazer with a 5-pointed star Hawaiian shirt, which is reminiscent of Starro, and Vans. And the costumes are so on point, and I can't wait to see them continue on to Peacemaker, with Vigilante already looking like a brilliant addition to the wardrobe. This is something I really look forward to talking about with most movies, and that is the theme. This film is a gore fest. It is a fuck, shit, hell, and damn fest. But what this film also is a beautiful commentary on the purpose that we all possess. When Taika Waititi was cast in this movie, there was major speculation as to who the comic and director would be portraying. Maybe the voice of Nanaue, or maybe the voice of Starro. Some even speculated that he might be playing Multiplex. But what we now know is Taika betrays the original Ratcatcher, who delivers half of the central theme of this movie. He speaks the line, "Rats are the lowliest and most despised of creatures, my love. If they have a purpose, so do we all." This is all said, of course, to his younger daughter, Cleo. The second half of the central theme comes from the sacrifice of Red Flag. Don't do something because your country, friends, family tell you to. Do something because it is right and moral. Stand your ground in the face of complete ruin and reputation destruction. This movie really hits its themes with oomph and gusto, and it works so well for Suicide Squad stories like this one. Bravo. And now, I would like to take a moment to remember some of our fallen heroes. Join me in memorializing the immortal. Those are the heroes we lost so, well, not so tragically, except for Milton. Fly high, my prince, and Flag. But anyway, those are the heroes we lost this year. In conclusion, The Suicide Squad might just be the film that carries the definitive stamp of James Gunn. It contains his disturbing visuals, it's gory, and it's superhero-y. A true thrill ride from start to finish that I did not want to get off of. I was genuinely surprised by just how many people die within the first 10 minutes alone. He wasn't joking about not getting attached. This movie is easily, in my opinion, the best DC movie since Nolan revitalized Batman. But what do I, a fan of Gunn and DC, want for the future of Gunn at DC? Well, Gunn says he is currently committed to the Peacemaker spinoff and will continue to be if it is renewed for a season 2. But after he used Blackguard in this movie, who is a very specific villain to a certain DC hero, I think he's hinting at a different path. We've heard rumors that the possible appearance of the second Blue Beetle, Ted Kord, will come in Peacemaker. To be completely honest, I think Gunn should continue his DC work with a Booster Gold Blue Beetle movie. And since Booster is a time traveler, who knows? Maybe we can see Blackguard again. Either way, Gunn has a bright future at DC, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. Alright guys, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's the announcement of the winner of our contest. Now, We couldn't do it the initial way that we wanted because we didn't, A, have enough people, and B, nobody got it right on the head. But we do have a second place runner-up who will take the prize, and I've got a friend who really wants to announce this. So we're going to go to him, and he's going to announce the winner of our contest. Take it away, ma'am. Hey there, guys. Future Jay here. You know, it's actually just like 2 hours in the future, and I forgot that I didn't show off our amazing prize. So, this is the culturefly.com DC Comics The Suicide Squad collector's box with beautiful art showcased all over the packaging of the characters' logos designed specifically for this film. There's a window box here that showcases our pint glass inside. Also included is a duffel bag, a mini duffel bag, a lapel pin, postcard set of 6, and an art print. This is an awesome prize for an awesome contest for an awesome person. And now we'll get to that special message from our friend. Take it away, bud.
Hey there, Peacemaker here, Capt Cash. We had a lot of great contestants, but only one was fucking dope enough to win. So congratulations to the Suicide Squad Carnage Contest winner, Robert C. Bethany III. You got quite a name there, Robert. So congratulations again, and remember, peace at any price.
Well, guys, those are my thoughts on the Suicide Squad. How did you feel about the movie? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget, guys, to always be respectful of everyone's opinions in the comments. Don't forget to go follow our socials listed in the description. And once again, congratulations to Robert Bethany. All right, guys, spread love, be blessed. Peace out.